today's class. I'm so excited. We are going to be digging into what fear is costing you. Okay, so here's the deal, right? I had my Thrive 25 Women's Conference, and one of the things that we talked about during that conference was fear. And it was so I was about to say astounding, but more so affirming, because I've dealt with fear throughout my life. I've dealt with fear a lot when it comes to being authentic. Au- yes. Authentic. I've dealt with fear based on so many different things. And so I know that fear is one of those things that really causes us pause, and it keeps us back from doing the things that we know we can do in our lives. And so I really wanted to make sure that we had a class on fear, because I think it's so very important for us to be able to identify it so that we can move on. The thing that I know the most is that most of us don't really understand or know how much fear is truly, truly costing us. It is costing us so much. And we're going to get into that in today's class. And so if you are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can get notified every time I drop a class or a video. All right, so let's get into it. So what is fear? Fear is an emotional response to a perceived threat or a real threat that is meant to keep us safe, right? And so if you are here live, let me know, and I'd love to shout you out. So good morning, Jay. Um, and so fear is just this emotional response that we get based on a real threat that's happening in our lives or a perceived threat. Fear is actually meant to keep us safe, right? So if you have this perceived threat, somebody's chasing you down the street, and you're gonna run, right? Like it's the fear, your fear's gonna kick in, and then you're going to run. I just went to watch the movie. What is it? Oh my goodness, what movie did we just went to watch? I can't even think of the movie. That's my brain. Okay, but I just went and watched a suspenseful scary movie, and my fear kicked in because I was like, at some point I couldn't even look because I was too scared. And that's what fear does for us. But what fear doesn't know is that it's keeping us from our dreams. It's keeping us from our aspirations. It's keeping us from the things that we know we're supposed to be doing, but we don't do it because we're too scared. And that's what we want to talk about, because those things that you know you're supposed to be doing, fear is costing you that. It is literally costing you the job. It's costing you the ability to make the kind of money that you want to. It's costing you all these things. And I know that this is hindering so many people, which is the reason why we're going to dig into it. So, in my book, Get Courageous Now, A Woman's Guide to Finding Her Passions and Purpose in Life. You can grab it on Amazon, or Audible. Um, I list out the 8 main fears, and we're going to talk about those fears today before we get into what fear is actually costing you. Because these 8 main fears, I'm pretty sure your corporate is in these 8 main fears. So the first fear is the fear of the unknown. So here's the thing about the fear of the unknown. It says to us, we must know what's going to happen, because if we don't know what's going to happen, then we don't know how to control it. And so therefore we fear the unknown because we don't know what's going to happen. Now let me just say this. Unless your name is God, and it ain't, you are not going to know what's going to happen. You just won't know. Like we none of us really truly know. But this fear, the fear of the unknown, oh my goodness. So many people are held back because they feel like in order for them to move forward, they must know what's going to happen, right? And so a lot of times when it comes to finding a new job or starting a new job or even looking for a new job, I mean, good God, um, getting a promotion, finding, trying to find love, all these things, because we can't see the end, we don't even start because we don't know what's going to happen. That's the fear of the unknown. And it's a tricky one. The fear of pain. So this can be either physical or emotional. And what this says is that we all seek to avoid pain. It's called the pain and pleasure principle. So with the pain and pleasure principle, all of us are seeking we're seeking happiness, we're seeking pleasure. Therefore, we're looking to avoid pain. And so, most of the things that we do in life is to make us happy, is to seek that pleasure and to avoid pain. And we get into a lot of trouble. This is where a lot of procrastination happens because when you procrastinate, you are seeking to avoid the pain that you think the thing is going to cause you. Like if you're in school, right, and you got a paper due, a lot of people wait to the last minute because the thought of that paper is painful. They actually think that the paper is going to bring them pain, so we actually procrastinate because it's not something that's going to ultimately bring us pleasure. Even though we know we got to get it done, we still wait. And that's that principle. That's really, we're all trying to avoid pain. So, number 3 is the fear of rejection. Oh, Lordy. I feel like this fear is the main reason why most of us act the way that we do. Let me explain. Most of us act the way that we do because we do not want to be rejected by other people. So many of us put so much weight on what other people think of us that we begin to behave in ways that don't look like us, don't sound like us, don't act like us. I'll give you an example. I can remember early in my career, I done been in the game for a minute. So I remember early in my career, right? As I was trying to become a speaker, as I was trying to become a coach and everything, I would, I would try to emulate like other people, other speakers that I knew. But I was always myself, but I still try to emulate other people. I still feel like I showed up myself in the sense of I'm loud. I laugh about it now because it's just part of who I am. And I can remember being at this conference or something like this, and this one woman said, you are loud. Like, dang. Like I, in my presence, totally offended her. And I was so embarrassed and I was actually taken aback. And I went into this I don't know, this kind of tailspin when people tell you something and you take it some kind of way. So I went into this tailspin of trying to figure out who I could be if I wasn't loud. And let me tell you, nothing ever felt right. I'm just a loud, bubbly, happy, excited person. And without that, I'm not me. So I had to go through that to realize that that's just who I am and that's just who I'm going to be. But I was totally rejected on that day and it didn't feel good, but it sent me down a road that I never want to go again, which is the reason why I don't put so much weight on what people got to say about me because people always got something to say. And I do realize this. I want you to realize this too. Most of the time, what people think about you has more to do with them than it does you. Boom. All right, there we go. Right. So I realized Later on, y'all, I had to go through a lot of things, but I realized later on that that comment that affected me so much had to do with more with her than it had to do with me. And so, but I had to overcome that. I had to realize that rejection is just, what other people think, and it ain't on me. So, fear of rejection, but it might be yours. It might be your fear that you are that is has you gripped, right? All right, so number 4, fear of loneliness. So the fear of loneliness best described by emptiness, um, void of connection with other human beings. I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to get married. I don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want to do these things. That's fine. Because I really feel like all of us don't have to be in a intimate relationship and all those kinds of things, but you do have to be in connection. I don't care what you say. We are connected beings. We were meant for connection. And when it comes to the fear of loneliness, if you don't have that fear of connect if you don't have that connection with other people, then you don't have that sense of belonging. And belonging, my dears, is a basic human need. So if y'all look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Y'all know I'm a positive psychologist. So I got to go back to Maslow. This psychology 101. If you go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it'll show you on there that love and belonging are in the center of that pyramid. That means it's a basic human need. You cannot not have love and belonging, thus connection. And so some of us fear loneliness because there was a research study that came out, especially during the pandemic, that said that more adults are suffering from loneliness or feelings of loneliness than ever before, right? Like, I mean, we know the pandemic was wild, but that statistic still continues because a lot of us are still operating in a pandemic mindset. Ooh. I told that to one of my companies, the companies that we coach in, and they were like, "What did you say?" I said, "Most of us and most organizations are still operating from a pandemic mindset. I mean, a lot of us are still working from home some days, and when we're in the office, we're not still being as connected. And so, this fear of loneliness is real. So, I'll say check on your friends, right? Because it's the ones that you think are okay that are not okay. That's what I'm gonna say about that one. Okay, let's move on. Fear of inadequacy. Who, Lord, this one all stems from the expectations that we set for ourselves. So, you know that saying, we are harder on ourselves than other people? It's true because we set these very high standards, and that's okay. It's fine for you to set these high standards for yourself, but here's the thing: when you set the bar so high that you can't even jump it, Houston, we have a problem. Okay. And a lot of us are setting very high bars, very high standards for ourselves that we can't even jump. And a lot of us are not giving ourselves slack. We're not giving ourselves grace. I call it grace and mercy because some of us need grace and mercy from ourselves. We be talking about other people, but you need to give yourself a little grace and mercy. And so this one might be yours because I know a lot of people are setting the bar at perfection. Let me say it again. If you are listening to me and you are a perfectionist, this may be your fear. And rightfully so, because if you set the bar at perfection, anything less than perfection is going to be a failure. And that is so hard to do to yourself. Okay? So that's number 5. Number 6 is the fear of lack. So here's the thing about lack. Poverty is defined as, not having the basic needs that food, water, shelter, all those things, right? But most of us fear lack of things that we think are going to ultimately make us happy, like a certain house, a certain car, a certain amount of money in the bank, all those things. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with those things because, of course, I think that we should all live in a certain amount of abundance in our lives, right? I believe in that. But this fear of lack keeps us stuck because we fear lacking, that we're going to lack something, then we don't take chances and we don't step outside of our comfort zone and stuff like that. So we fear that, this one I see a lot in women that I coach. They stay in jobs that they hate. We stay in jobs that we hate because it's paying us a certain amount of money. And we feel like if we step outside of this job, then we're going to lack the things that we want. I get it. But there are other ways. And that's what we need to figure out. Okay. So, number 7 is the fear of failure. Ooh, child. This one rules over all of our actions and decisions. We do things in our life or we don't do things because we are scared that we're going to fail. I can't tell you how big this one is and can be in your life. If you're scared to take chances, then you fear the failure, right? Like I have a Dr. Kikiism here, right? Y'all know I started sharing my Dr. Kikiisms, right? One of my Dr. Kikiisms is that I don't not do something because I fear that I'm gonna fail. I actually do it, and then if I get to it and I can't make it through or I have to stop or whatever, then I pull back in. Let me give you an example. When I was in grad school getting my PhD, Lord, I started over with my children. I have an adult son. Shout out to Tamazier. Hey, babe. I have an adult son, and then I started my motherhood all over again when he was 22 years old. I know I look good, y'all. You know. So I had my daughter Mackenzie at what 39 years old, but that's when I went back to school. Talk about it. That's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother class, but we'll get into it if y'all want that story. But while I was in school, Mackenzie was 1. I found out I was pregnant with Walter. Lord have mercy. So first of all, I waited all this time to have kids, and then when I tried to have kids, I had to go through in vitro and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's a whole nother story. But I got pregnant with Walter. Now, let me paint the picture for you. I'm in my first year of grad school getting my PhD. And if any of you have ever gone to school to get a PhD, child, baby, you know it ain't easy. So I found out that I'm pregnant with Walter. And I'm a very determined person if you haven't known that. Like I am, if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. That's one of the I'm that person. And so people kept on asking me, are you gonna quit or are you gonna take a break? Or are you gonna stop? Because you about to have 2 kids under 2 while you're in grad school trying to get your PhD. And most people probably would have taken a beat because I'm not saying that it was easy, right? Most people probably would have been like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna take a little step back because this is about to be real difficult. But I don't make decisions like that, right? I make decisions from true knowledge. It might be hard, but what if it ain't too hard? What if it ain't? What if you stop your Here's what I found in my coaching practice. And I challenge my clients all the time on this. What if it's not hard? What if you can make it through? Because here's the real lesson. Most of us are only operating out of this much of our effort and our ability to get to the next level. Right? We have so much more in us that and we don't know it because we haven't tried to tap into it. We haven't tried to push ourselves forward, right? So we have so much more in us. And so I decided that no, I'm going to keep forging forward. And if it gets to be too hard, I'll make a decision then. That's the Dr. Kikiism, right? Don't make a decision about something being too hard or too easy or whatever before you actually experience the thing. Make the decision once you've experienced it to be too hard. So I kept on going, and uh I made it through. I never stopped. I'm not saying it was easy, but I never ever stopped, and I graduated on time with my crew. Um and we all walked together, and it was awesome. And my two babies were well, all three of my babies, even my adult son, were in the audience, but the two babies was asleep. So there you have it. Right? So we got to understand that when we talk about fear of failure, you can't stop yourself because you're too scared that you're going to fail. You have to know, you have to realize, you have to experience it before you stop yourself. Okay? And the last one is the fear of success. You might be saying, Dr. Kiki, do people really fear success? Yes, they do. They absolutely do. And here's why. Um, a lot of times fear of success can be an uncharted territory for a lot of people, right? You might find yourself in a place where you've made more money, and depending on your friend circle, it might be more than your friend circle, and then you find yourself being able to do different things, more things, and you feel like you're going to get criticized. I've even experienced this myself, like something awesome and amazing may happen to me in my business or something like that, and to say I'm reluctant to tell people about the success, even though I'm super excited about it. But it's that fear of success because I don't want to be judged because I have. And people out here is real judgy these days. I really don't care now, but I've dealt with that in the past, and a lot of people deal with the fact that if you get more, people gonna look at you for having more, and you're not gonna be lovable, you're not gonna be likable. People gonna think you stuck up. People gonna say you changed, and I'm like, no, I always been this way. I'm a generous person, so I've always been generous. I'm not changing that. But these are the 8 main fears, right? So I want you to ask yourself which one of these, and if you are joining me live, go ahead and pop it in the chat. Which one of these are the biggest fear in your life? I'm gonna go over them again. I'm not gonna like go into them, but we have the fear of the unknown, the fear of pain, the fear of rejection, the fear of loneliness, the fear of inadequacy, the fear of lack, the fear of failure, and the fear of success. Which one of these is your fear? Pop it in the chat. If you are listening to me live, and if you are watching this video after the fact, go ahead and pop it in the comments. All right. So here is the part that you came from. I need you to get out your pens and paper. Okay? Get your pen and paper out. Now, this is class. Y'all do know I'm a professor. My students, I do think my students love me. And so I'm always, doing these things in class and giving them questions that they can ponder and they can answer for themselves. And I'm going to treat you just like you in my class, right? Shout out to Life University, where I'm an assistant professor in the Masters of Positive Psychology coaching program. So I teach people how to be coaches, y'all, um, using positive psychology principles. All right. So now that you got your pens and paper and stuff like that, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write on your piece of paper how much money you make every month. Every month, right? Like this is a monthly thing. How much money you make every month. So whatever you bring home from your job, from your part-time job, from your part-time hustle, from child support, just whatever, right? Write it down. All right, y'all got that number? Now, what I want you to write down underneath that number is what you want to make every single month. How much money you want to bring home every single month. Go ahead and give that a think, and I want you to write that down. I'll give you a second. Okay? When you get that number, I want you to put a circle around it, and that is what I call your fear factor. That's what fear is costing you. Mm. That number is what fear is costing you. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I want to back up real quick. Now, I want you to take a look at the number that you just wrote down. The number that you said you want to make every month. If you had your calculator out, like calculating your bills, then if you was thinking real hard about how much bills or how many bills you got, let me subtract how many bills I got to tell me then how much I want to bring home every month, then you did this all wrong. So let's back up for a minute. I told you to think about a number that you want to bring home every single month. Like if you had your way and the sky was the limit and abundance was abundancing, what is the number? I can guarantee you ain't the number that you just wrote down. If your dreams that you have, if your purpose that God has placed you on earth, if you're meant to go after that, what is that number? What is that number? That's the number I want. See, what I realize is that, and this is mostly women because I speak to a lot of women, but men also, we'll write down these numbers. It be based on like how many bills we got. We be subtracting and we be calculating it up on our. I'm doing this because this is where my calculator is at. We be doing all that. I ain't asked you to do all that. What's your desire? What's your heart's desire? So let's do this again. Rewind. All right. So you're going to take the amount of money that you make every month, and then you're going to subtract it from the new number of what you want to bring in every month if abundance was upon you. And if you were going to go out there and be the very best you can and do all that you can in your purpose. Now, I want you to put a circle around that number. My love, this is what fear is costing you. Need I say more? Is that number surprising? If you did it right, it should be. It should be. So I have big dreams, right? My purpose in life is to help women succeed. That's my whole purpose in life, right? It's to help women succeed. And I do that in a whole bunch of different ways. Partly is teaching, right? I'm teaching right now. My books, my podcast, Dr. Kiki Ramsey Show podcast. I do it by teaching at the university. I do a lot of speaking engagements, all of that. And I know that in order for me to be my very best and to live the life that I want to live, I desire a high income. So when I first did this, child, my number was $1 million a month. Oh, you thought I was about to say a year? uh-uh. It was a month. Yeah, clocking 12 million a year. Yeah. My fear was costing me a whole lot of money until I stepped out and really began to be who I was meant to be. Wow. How did it make you feel? How did it make you feel? So like if you did it right, you can even break it down even more. You can divide it by 4. That'll tell you how much your fear is costing you every single week. Like it's this, I came up with this probably about 15 plus years ago. And I taught it at my very first conference. And let me tell you something about fear. Ooh, Lord. Ooh, thank you. What's so funny about fear is that I used to have a conference back in the day called Get Courageous. Um, Get Courageous Now, a woman's guide to finding her passions and purpose in life, right? My book. So I used to have a conference called Get Courageous. And I love the conference. I love teaching. It's just it's what I was meant to do, right? I was meant to do. And so I had this conference and I loved it, but conferences are hard. If you know any if you know anything about conferences, they're hard. Bear with me because I'm going to tell you a couple things to do to overcome your fear so that you can start walking in your purpose and in your passions. So I had this conference and I loved it. It was phenomenal. It was changing lives. But just like you, I'm human, right? I'm human. And because conferences are hard, I just was like, I can't do this no more. I love it so much. I love teaching on my own platform because it's the best thing ever. But just everything about a conference, getting people there. I even had an event planner, all this. Still, I just don't enjoy the lead up to the conference. It's like I'm pregnant, and I don't know about you, but my pregnancies were not awesome. So it's like I'm pregnant and I just can't wait to deliver. I just want to get it over with and deliver. And so once I deliver and produce the baby, it's amazing. It is it's awesome, right? And so I I quit. But let me tell you something. Prior to that conference, right? Prior to that conference, or prior to me quitting, my conference, I had this vision of hosting the one of the biggest and the best, the most transformational conference, career and business conferences for women in the United States, right? That was my goal. That has been my goal since I can remember, years and years and years ago. And so when I started Get Courageous back in the day, that was my goal. But then I quit because I just feared what it was going to take to be the very best and the amount of money and all that kind of stuff. And then fast forward to this year, 24 or 25, excuse me, I decided that I was going to do the Thrive 25 Women's Conference. And because this was given to me by the Lord, I knew that I had to do it, but I did it kicking and screaming. And when I tell you, I was so done, so done with the Thrive 25 Women's Conference. I was done. And, but when the Lord tells you to do something, you do it because He just like that. So I did it kicking and screaming. And let me tell you this, it was the most transformational experience for my women who attended Thrive 25 and me. I mean, my women have gone away. They created their own group, right? They are active in their own group, holding each other accountable. And what it did for me is it woke up that dream that I had so long ago. And of I was so scared of that dream because I felt all the things. I felt like I was going to be a failure. I felt like I was going to be inadequate. I had thoughts of what if it is a success? I mean, like when I tell you, all of the things were coming at me with this conference. But I overcame them because I took a step forward. and I walked in my purpose. And that's the same thing that I want for you. Child, y'all got me all emotional up in this class. Woo, Lord. Okay. So, so needless to say, going into the Thrive 25 Women's Conference, there was going to be no more Thrive conferences coming from me because I was just done. However, uh, there will be a Thrive 26. So I'm happy to say that. And so look out for details for Thrive 26 because it's going to be off the chain like Thrive 25 was. But I was able to overcome my fear. So here are three things that I want to leave you with that you can do in order to start overcoming whatever fear is plaguing you. Number one, I want you to name and attain it. Name it to tame it. Secrets hide out in the dark, y'all. Mm, mm, mm. Let me say it again. Secrets hide out in the dark, including fear. When you are scared of something, it it bubbles up, it manifests, it perpetuates in your system, in your skin, in your body, and it keeps you stagnant. It keeps you laying low. And that's not where you're supposed to be. So, in order for me to truly overcome my fear, I had to name that thing. And that was for me, I was scared of being a failure in a conference that was supposed to help women, right? But if I walk away feeling like a failure, how is it that I'm helping women, right? So I was scared. I was fearful of that. And so I had to name that thing so that I could ultimately tame it. Because when you speak it out, when you share it out, when you tell people what you're scared of, and I mean your trusted friends and family, y'all ain't gotta go out there and tell everybody you scared of something, right? We gotta have a community. We have to have a community of trusted friends. And so my trusted friends, they even knew that I was like not even considering doing it again. And they all of them checked me even after the conference was over and was like, you gotta have another one. You gotta overcome this fear of this thing, right? And so you gotta have somebody that you love or people that love you and are gonna tell you the truth. So, but you gotta name it. You gotta be unashamed. So people, look at me like, Dr. Kiki, you scared? Baby, I'm human. I'm I'm real human. I make mistakes, right? And so, yeah, name it to tame it. Number two, you got to take one small, bold step. I um I hesitate to say bold because I feel like the word bold stops some of us in our tracks, right? Bold stops some of us from taking a step. So that's why I said small but bold, but it can just be small, right? You just got to make a move. You cannot stay stagnant. You can't stay still. When you are trying to overcome fear, fear is combated by action. Like you got to move. And so if you're in this class, I want you to choose to take one step, and I want you to drop it in the comments or either in the chat. What's that bold step or that small step that you're going to choose to take on that thing that you're supposed to take, right? Like on that fear that's been holding you back. What's that one step that you're going to take forward this week? Yeah, I said it. This week, today, tomorrow. Right? We be waiting. What you waiting on? Ain't no reason to wait. What you waiting on? No reason. So go ahead and take that bold step or that small step. And then lastly, reframe fear as fuel. So when I say reframe, I'm a positive psychologist, so I'll be reframing everything. People be talking all negative, and I be straight reframing. And what I mean by that is, okay, what if that wasn't true? What if it could come true? What if you could have all the abundance, all the blessings that you wanted in life? What if you could reframe? So, what I want you to do is take that fear and then say, ask yourself, how can you turn this fear into something that's good? What's the opposite of your fear, right? Is it happiness? Is it excitement? Is it laughter, elation? Is it optimism? What's the opposite of your fear? The thing that you fear the most, what's the opposite of that thing? Reframe it, right? And so when I was thinking about my conference and the reframe, because I wasn't going to do it next year, the reframe for me is, what if I did do it next year and it was amazing? What if I did do it next year and hundreds of women got the breakthrough that they so desperately needed? What if I did it next year and the Lord got the glory? That's the reframe. I want you to do that for yourself. What if it does go right? What if every single thing works out in your favor? What if it did? All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here with me. I love seeing you here. Like I said, go ahead and subscribe. Please share this video with somebody. Somebody need to hear this. One of your friends, one of your sister girls, your girlfriends need to hear this because fear is keeping so many of us stuck. If you are out there and you don't have community, join us in the Thrive Society. If you go to my website, drkiki.com, and you click on Thrive Society, we have a bustling community of women who we're all thriving together. And I'm in there, and we have challenges, we have prompts, we have motivation, we have community and connection points. I would love for you to join us. Just go to drkiki.com and then click on Thrive Society and join us in the Thrive Society tribe so you can become a part of the official Thrive tribe when you actually join us in the community. So I look forward to seeing you there. And until next time, remember to create your own happiness because you have it in you. All right, y'all. Love you. Peace.